What's going on, guys? We are back with another episode of Instillment HQ. I'm Reese.
I'm Ben.
And today...
I'm Vince.
We have a very special guest with us. Vince, how you doing, brother?
Good, really good. Thanks for having me.
Man.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I just don't know where to look, but I'll just keep looking at you guys.
Just right into my eyes.
Yeah, and then up at the ceiling.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Well,
awesome.
I drove down today from...
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Do you want to give us maybe like a little summary of kind of what you do? Just for anyone who doesn't know you.
This changes every day, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, this week it is.
This week, that's what exactly. What I do is I help people understand who they are beyond what they do.
Okay.
And basically, to simplify it, I help people create a very strong relationship with themselves. Because I find in life we live a lot for others, which that's the intention. It is to give out. But we forget to give in sometimes. And so my role as a guide, I don't know if I'm a teacher, but more so a guide, like a coach, is I get people to look at themselves first, fulfill from the inside, and then so it pours out into others.
Right. Can't pour from an empty cup. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the idea is first of all, understanding what the cup is that you're working with, and then starting to fill it up.
Cool.
Because I struggled in my life with that, and my dad, who passed away 2.5 years ago, that was a big lesson that I learned from him. I know we're just jumping right into it, but it's just kind of coming up. At his funeral, there was 2,500 people came through the doors, and it was
holy shit.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's great. And I'm sitting there going, there's all these people coming in going, thank you so much. Your dad did this for me. Your dad did this for me. He loved me like his son, this and that. And I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like, wow, that's great. And if he were to do that for himself, if he were to take the time he gave to others for himself, I strongly believe he'd still be here. And, it's not a knock on my dad. I love him dearly, and I did every minute I had with him. And I believe there was an opportunity for him to start to give what he was giving others to himself first.
Right.
Because there was a lot of times where it was even the last night, the night before he had his heart attack, we went to a Tiger Cats game, and this summed up our entire life. He was walking up the stairs and he was out of breath. And I was like, Dad, what's wrong? He goes, don't worry about me. You go ahead. You get to the seat. You get your stuff, whatever. And it was he was putting me first. Not going whoa, I'm feeling something, we got to go. And that night he was fine, but the next day, that's when he had his heart attack, and that was it. And that's when I always think about that. I'm like, how often in life do we put others before ourselves, neglecting ourselves?
Yeah.
Because it's great to be selfless. I'm not saying don't be selfless. Yeah. We want to live for others. But the idea is, if you think of the word selfless on its own, you're less of self. And so the idea is, before you are selfless, you need to be, whatever the word is, if it's self-full, if it's self-fulfilling, if it's self-loving, so that you can be selfless. Because if we just start from empty, we're always going to be on empty.
Yeah.
And I believe the first step of understanding that relationship is knowing who you are. Because so much of our lives and our identities have been created by what gives us the most love from others. And so it's the idea of living for others, or am I living for myself?
And I feel in this day and age, that's a huge problem.
For sure.
I don't know if it's a problem, but you see it with everybody, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go take this in school just because I think that's what's best, or whatever it is, right? I'm sure you see these examples all the time, right? So how does one maybe take that first step into getting on that discovery, or what's the word choice that you would use for it?
Yeah, no, it's for me, it's the awareness. So it's knowing that, I look at it like this: there's expectations, and then there's expectations of others, and then there's what you want for yourself, which is your truth. What I help people do is access their own truth, not the truth, because it means that there's
one
answer, but the idea is we all have our own. And it's the idea of going, what does everyone else want for me? I just kind of get people to draw a circle. On the outside, list what everybody else wants for me, and then on the inside, it's just going, what do I want for myself? Because I lived 28 years of my life for everybody else. I remember I told this story the other day where it was I remember I was coaching football and I was asking everyone else what I should do next.
Right.
rather than checking in with myself and going, what do I feel like I want to do? And when I use the word feel, it's really important, especially as a male, because I find we're very cut off from our feelings at a young age, because it's not the norm as a male to understand what's going on in your body, if you feel emotion and that kind of thing. And I believe that's where the answers are. Like if I hang out with you and my body starts to go like this, my body is telling me that you're not good for me, which I know it's not true.
You're standing up very straight right now.
Yeah. So
it's all good.
But it's the idea of like, he's like, okay, fine.
Okay, we're good. Sorry about that.
But yeah, so it's like, it's tapping into what's happening in here. And because the more we focus on here, the less we're focusing on out here. And, I lived so much of my life for like, what would everybody else want me to do right now? And the only reason why, and to really simplify this, is because I believe they held my love and validation. They were the greatest source of love and validation. But when I started to become my own greatest source of love and validation, it's like I just disconnected from all those things. And of course, I still struggle with it. I haven't mastered it. There's just different levels of awareness.
Progress,
But it's the idea of just the understanding of knowing that whatever I'm looking for out here already exists inside of here. And I don't even know if that answered. I don't even remember the question.
I was just like, what's kind of the first step to that discovery, which is like
awareness.
Yeah.
What's the awareness?
Love it. You're fired up.
Just go on tangents. I'm just like,
no, it's great.
I don't know where we are right now.
That's fantastic. No, I was so drawn into that. I'm like, wow.
I know.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, for real.
take it easy, guys.
Yeah. I'm gonna go self-reflect now.
So I'm just curious about like your craft in general. So what's the biggest misconception you've heard about life coaching or just what you do in general?
So I've been told, this will sum it up. I was told by a head football coach once that my program, I'll just swear.
Oh, absolutely.
I just
100%.
I love it.
Yeah.
So this
unfiltered.
So this head coach, he was like, Vince, so what do you want to do with our team? And I told him, I said, I give your athletes space to discover who they are and define their own answers, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, your program is bullshit. And I was like, wow.
Thank you.
Why? Yeah, thanks. And why? I was just curious. I was like, why? He's like, you want to give, he said, I think he said 100 entitled millennials even more freedom than they already have. And I said, yes. Because my belief is with a team, it's like they all have their own answers, but they're going to the same place.
Yeah.
That's the world, right? But what's happening is we start to go, no, we have to live into everybody else's expectation. So he wanted everybody to buy into his expectation. But this is the thing. Look at a team. The left tackle does different things to get to the same place as the quarterback, as the receiver, as the running back, et cetera, et cetera. We all have different paths in life, but we're all trying to get to the same place. And so it's really important for us to define those, because there's so much power and confidence in defining our own path. And then once we start to live our own, we start to notice people who are living in theirs or not.
True.
And it's so powerful in a team, because it's like if a guy's doing really good at his job, even in work, wherever, if somebody in your space is doing really good at their job, you're like, whoa, what's that guy drinking? What's this guy doing? And that's that feeling of, I believe it's really important, because with athletes, I work with so many former athletes who are so suppressed with their own truth because they've been relying on their coaches, they've been relying on their parents, they've been relying on their teammates. And now they have all this like open space and they don't know what to do with it. And so it's really important for coaches to go through this, because the second a coach defines their own path, they go, whoa, I have 100 kids, I don't want to say underneath me, but below me or whatever, in my guidance that have their own path. But if they believe they're living into everybody else's truth, then their athletes will be doing the same thing.
Very true.
And so the misconception is, I'm just woo-woo, like, what's the word? Like hippie, talking about love and everything. But, and I don't care about performance and I don't care about that, but I do, because I believe that we perform at our best when we're fully present. And when we're fully present, it means that we're not attached to all of these outcomes and all of these people around us and expectations. So I believe performance and all of the outcomes happen when we fill this up first. So it's actually been a struggle for me talking to coaches in the past couple of years. I have a lot of open-minded coaches and administrators who have brought me in. But there's been a lot of struggle because it's like, oh, you just care about, emotions and all this. I'm like, yeah, but that's where the connection is. When you have I've seen it so many times.
What do you mean? Like everything you do is emotions, though, especially
exactly.
sports. Like
It
even with
drives your
us
life.
too. Yeah, like our creativity comes exactly from that passion. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
You're
so
dead on.
like, for someone to be like, oh, don't recognize that. It's like, but that's where it stems from, or maybe not where it stems from, but that's what fuels it for
Such
me
an
at
old-
least.
yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah,
Yes.
Such an old school thought to be like, no, just cut that off. Like,
Yes.
I don't know. It's boggling. Yeah. It's
100%.
boggling my mind listening to this because I'm like, wow, like we need a lot more. Like, even just me being in the school system right now, seeing all these young kids coming up, like they need that connection. Like they need that connection to themselves.
Yeah.
And they need that just kind of like independence from everyone else's thoughts, their teachers' thoughts, old school, exactly like that old school mindset.
Well, I was gonna say, even what you brought up as well, like athletes, like after, they're done with their sport or whatever. Like I know I went through that. I went from being a part of a basketball team, part of a volleyball team, to an entrepreneur, and that's like the complete opposite. Like you're alone. Like it's me sitting here by myself, and it's like shit. Like I don't have anything to like bounce off of. So like I wish like I had this right after that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it was like the process of, okay, like what am I doing? What's best for me kind of thing, right? Because like you can pretend and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this like entrepreneur thing, and I'm gonna like kind of like follow my passion, but still it's just you down here.
Yes.
And that's a lot of time when you're just talking with yourself, right? So
And that's a lot of people, right? It's like we're so used to bouncing those ideas off of everybody else, and very rarely do we tap into what, like I said, what's actually happening in here. And I struggled with this as an entrepreneur too, because I went from when I worked at Lululemon, you have a team of like 35 people, and every day it's like, hey guys, this is what I'm up to, whatever. And you get the validation of like, you starting your own business, that's amazing. And so now when you're an entrepreneur, like something good happens, I'm like, all right, Vince, nice work. Like just it's tough. It is. And it's kind of I guess the idea is creating a team with yourself and then attracting people who reflect that. Because I hear a lot where it's like, oh, I just need a partner, or I just need this. I need. But when we come from a place of need, it means we don't have that thing that we're trying to get from them inside of us. But what I'm trying to explain is everything that we want outside of us already exists within. And so it's the idea of like, if I need a partner just so I have validation every day, that means I'm just going to keep attracting people who have the same energy.
and just want to say yes.
They just want to say yes. And, and that's why it's important to be truthful with yourself, because when I'm truthful with myself, I attract people who are not only true with themselves, but they'll be like, Vince, no, not this, try that. Like it's very direct, very honest, and that's why I really appreciate Mihai. It's like, honestly, he's like, he literally will be like, Vince, have you thought about this? And like, he's very honest and to me,
but in a like respectful way. So it's not, because some people do it the bad way. Where it's like, you're shit. Oh, thanks. How do I improve that?
Exactly. And that's why like people like him really inspire me, because it's like, he does that for himself, and you can feel that, because when he gives it to you, it comes from a genuine place. But people who like exert their power just to feel, make sure that you feel less than them.
It's like, oh, nice.
But that's why I'm so appreciative of people like that, because it's like, I always look at it like this. When was the last time that you heard the absolute truth about something and haven't grown from it?
Very true. Never.
And that's just it. Like but I find in our society, we love to suppress the truth. I see it with kids all the time. It's like, don't tell little Johnny that Stevie had a popsicle. He's going to get really upset. So we literally hide them from the truth, but let them feel, let them experience that, whatever, if it's anger, if it's sadness, whatever, and create space for them to experience it. Because fast forward 20 years,
they learn how to cope with it. Right. So it's like,
exactly. And I was at an elementary school yesterday, and this teacher was talking about, I help my students self-regulate their emotions. I was like, oh my gosh, so are they like grade 8? She's like, no, they're 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, if 7-year-olds can do this, and not only that, why is this not in the school system? Number one. But fast forward again, 20, 30 years, it's like that's why we're struggling. Like, I never learned that.
Never.
I never learned how to sit with myself.
No, never.
So
It's true.
again, I don't remember what the question was. I'm just gonna keep
No,
talking.
this is
No,
great.
it's all
Don't worry about the
This is
question.
unreal.
Yeah. The one question that I have for you, like, say someone comes to you with like clinical depression or something of the sorts, like how do you guide them in a sense where, you know, hey, it's self-love, it's all this. Is there a process to that, or is there?
Yeah, so I always tell people, because I don't work specifically with trauma. I don't work specifically with depression, anxiety. Like, I'm not an anxiety coach, a depression coach, anything like that. My theories are very different from other people. My thing is like, because I've experienced all of those things, but how I've gotten out of it is very different than what the norm is.
Right.
And for me, like, prescriptions work for some people. I'm not saying they don't. For me, they did not. They made me just a different person. It threw me off. And what I learned was I was most depressed when I was suppressing who I really was as a human being. And I was trying to live into who I was supposed to be for other people. But once I started to go back in and started to come out in terms of like who I actually am and not holding back, that stuff, yeah, the darkness still happens. The darkness is always there. And like, I always tell people too, look at the earth. We have half of the day is light, half of it is dark. Look at the tides. They go in, they come back, they go out, they come back in. Like everything has a cycle. And when we try to cut off the cycle and be like always happy all the time, we're literally cutting off our opportunity to grow and evolve as a human being, and therefore as a planet, because we're all suppressing our own growth. And the byproduct of that is the earth and the planet suppressing our growth and evolution.
True.
And so I always say up front, it's like, this is not specifically what it's not like we're going to focus on your depression.
Yeah.
This is about the mastering the relationship with yourself so that you can maybe better cope with X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I've worked with people who have had PTSD, depression, anxiety, all those things. And it's not, I don't tell them it, like, because the goal is not to the goal is not to avoid the dark. Like I said, it's to literally sit in it for a little bit, get to know it, and then come back out with some beautiful gifts. Because I believe that our purpose is a direct reflection of our path in life. And if we always stay in the light, we're missing an opportunity to work with all the people who are in the dark. And so if I sit in my darkness, so if I think of my grieving, of losing my father, if I keep rejecting, I'm like, everything's fine, everything's good, then I'm literally keeping myself from working with and helping people who are in that grieving process now or have been in it. And so that's why it's like really important for us to sit in it. And I think of it like the other day, I had a really dark day. Like there was a lot of thoughts going on. There were a lot of like doubts and that kind of thing. And there was a moment where I just surrendered to it because I was trying to get out of it. I was like, no, I'm supposed to be happy. And no, I'm a coach and I'm supposed to have this figured out. But no, like no one has it figured out. And that's there's so much relief in that, because I feel like everyone's trying to figure it out.
I was just going to say, like, that guilt too starts stacking on top of the darkness that's already there, right?
Yes.
So it's about, like,
and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
But once we surrender and it's just like, well, this is a part of the tides. This is a part of the cycle.
Yeah.
That like the next day, it's I don't want to say it's easier, but it's more clear. Because it's like, there's something that happens in that darkness. Now, I'm not telling people who are listening, like, sit in the darkness and stay there. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, that's not, but what I'm saying is like, we all have those moments to different degrees. I don't want to generalize and say, we're all experiencing the same thing. We're not. But the idea of like, you hear it sometimes, like, your pain is your purpose or your pain is your path, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that. And we have a conscious choice from our past experiences to go, what do I want to do with my future intentions? So I look at life like past, present, future. And if we look at our purpose, it's our past experiences, and then it's our future intentions. And that fused is our purpose. So it's like, but very rarely do we sit and think about it. It's like, what have I experienced? What do I want to change moving forward? What do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? And then what do I want to create in the world? And that is our purpose, because
there's a put that formula on screen as a visual, because that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Of course. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's really important for people to think about, because they think like, not they, again, I don't want to generalize the idea of these experiences that we've had, they all have taught us these lessons. Now, these lessons are gifts for us to pass on to others. And that's why I believe like everyone in the world has a purpose. Like there's a reason why we experienced what we experienced, as shitty as it was, as great as it was. There's a reason why. If we don't bring awareness to it, then we don't have the gift. And so that's why, like with that pain, it's important to just go, whoa. Like where was that in my body? Like what did that create for me? And I look at, okay, and I'll be straight up with you guys. I had a surgery in November. I had 2 surgeries. Okay. I had, no joke, unofficially, the world's largest splenic cyst sitting on the side of my body.
Wow.
So it was 21 or 22 centimeters.
Jesus Christ.
From the bottom of my stomach to the bottom, or from the bottom of my stomach to the bottom of my heart.
Wow.
And it was like a baby just sitting on the edge of me. And they drained 3 liters out of it. They cut out this massive chunk. And the surgeon was like, we've never seen anything like this. And where I'm going with this is I had a choice. I could sit there and go, why did this happen to me? How come, like, why did I get chosen for this? Like, how come it's happening to me? But I sat there and I actually went to Ifs Therapy. So it's internal family systems therapy. And what they do is she basically got me to sit with the feeling of whatever happens in here, wherever that was. And I started to learn that so much of it came from worrying, and it got bigger and bigger after my dad passed away. And that's when they discovered it. It was like 7 centimeters, and then it grew to like 22.
Wow.
And so where I'm going with this is I have learned so much from this experience, and it's made me so grateful to now have this body that is clear of these toxicity or whatever. Toxins. Yeah. And I'm realizing every day I'm still unraveling what led to this. And for me, what it is I believe my mind is really strong, but it's also my greatest enemy, because I'll think so much that it literally cuts off anything that's happening in here. And so I start to worry, and then my body literally caves into this side. And so it creates the cyst from what I believe. This is what I believe. Yeah. Where I'm going with this is no matter how crappy the experience, there's always an essence of a lesson that you can pass on to someone else who, again, is about to experience it, is experiencing it, or will. And that's, or has. And so I would check in with, again, what you've experienced, what you want to create for the world, and fusing it. And that's your purpose. And I think as we're talking about this, something that I would like to say is your purpose doesn't have to look a certain way. Whether you're a janitor or you work at McDonald's, you're a CEO, it doesn't matter. It's the energy that you embody that is your purpose. So if it's gratitude, for your pain, whatever it is, people embody that. And as they move through life, people notice that. Like, when somebody walks in the room and you're like, whoa, that guy has been through some stuff and he's appreciative. Like our intuition literally guides us to these people. Yeah. And I think that's because I hear it a lot where it's like, I don't know my purpose. I don't know what I should be doing. It's not about what you should be doing. It's who you should be. Not even should, who you are. It's who you're being. That's most important. And that's how that ripples greater than anything you could possibly do. Because I could go speak to kids, right? And on the surface, I'm living my purpose. But what if my energy in all of my messaging is like, it doesn't mirror the message. Yeah. It means nothing. I could go in there judging myself, and then I'm judging all the kids. That's not I don't believe it's living your true purpose. But when we embody that message, when we embody that purpose, we don't have to say anything. We literally we are giving that off in energy. And it's so funny because when we talk about resistance of like coaches and that kind of thing, and energy is a real thing. Ask any coach, when a team scores on you, when you look at your bench, what does the energy say about your team?
Yeah, everyone's down.
Oh, everyone's down. Yeah. When you score, what does the energy look like? Oh, everyone's fired up and everything. Yep. Okay, so is energy a real thing? Yes. So that's why it's like, it's really important to make these connections. And I think I've struggled with it too, because I remember like if somebody were to tell me about this stuff 6 years ago, I'd be like, come on, man, energy, whatever. Like, I just want to coach football. You know, like there's no, you know. So but the idea of like just tap into your life and look at like, you know, when you meet someone, you get that initial instinct, that instinct and that intuition of like, well, there's something off about this person, or the complete opposite. There's something that makes me feel really good when I'm around this person. And so that it's tapping into that. And I think it all connects back to what we were talking about feeling. But what I'm trying to say is your purpose is already here. You know, again, I feel like I'm just talking, but
no, please do. No,
the idea of like, we're always looking for our purpose. We're always looking to find our purpose. But my belief is we just need to define what's already there. And something that proves that in terms of my theory is I do this work with kids. So kids as young as like 7. And these kids define who they are. They define their life's purpose. And I've literally watched it before my eyes. I have it on video. And it's like, it gives me chills every time because I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not telling them what their purpose is. You've experienced that module. I don't give. Amazing.
This is it.
I love it. I love it.
Wrote down everything.
I love that. I'm so glad you did that, man. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, man. It was sick. Yeah.
But
unreal experience.
But it's the idea that like, I didn't tell you the answers.
No.
So it's like, I always tell
just
people.
a catalyst of like, the, you know, think about it this way kind of thing.
Yes.
Which is,
and
causes you to think.
Yes. And with kids, especially, like those ideas are floating around in their head all day. But if the average conversation around them is just do this, just do that, get an A in this paper, get it, they're not going to tap into that stuff. But when they're given space to get it out, I've seen teachers go like, how did you get them to say that? I didn't. I literally just sat there and asked them a simple question of like, what do you love about yourself?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know. No, really, like, what's your favorite part about you? And the kid's like, I love that I'm really happy when I'm around Johnny.
Yeah,
like
they're so unfiltered too.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like,
of course. I was thinking, my little cousin, he's so honest. I'll be like, Nathan, I love you, man. He goes, Vince, you already told me that today. And I'm like, this is so good. Because like, think of adults, right? Where you're like, this guy's already told me this before. But he's like, we keep it in.
Yeah, I love you too. You just say it back.
Right? It's just like, oh, everything's good. But that's why I love kids, because they literally, when you talk about your truth, kids live into their truth until the brain starts to develop and they start to convince themselves that they need to live into others. Yeah. And that's why I believe it's so important to create space for kids to discover these things, because as a kid, I always had people come in and talk and do this. And it's like, this is how to be this. This is how to be resilient. This is how, but the truth is, it's like, I don't have your answers. Like if I could tell you how I do it, but how's that going to help you?
Yeah.
And so what I've actually done with my keynotes with kids is I literally do a 20-minute presentation of like what I believe about self-love and purpose and all this stuff. And then it's like 35 minutes of Q&A with like 9, 10, 11-year-olds.
Yeah. And they probably go off.
They go off.
Yeah.
And teachers, because I always tell teachers, I'm like, yeah, so it's a 20-minute presentation and the rest is Q&A. They're like, you're not going to have them for 35 minutes. There's no way they're going to ask the questions.
You're like, just wait.
And I was like, no problem. Just trust me, you know? And it happens every single time. And there was one, I get chills just thinking about it. I was in an elementary school in Oakville. And I did this thing where it was about, I did a stillness practice with them. So just being with yourself, being with your body, noticing your tension, et cetera, et cetera. And then self-love and then love of others. So self-love was think about one thing you love about yourself and why. So we did that exercise. And then this is with like 400 or 500 kids. And then at the end, I was like, okay, now think about somebody in this gym, what you love about them and why. So I was like, all right, who wants to share? And this kid at the front, you could see he was kind of hesitant, but he put up his hand and he's like, I love Johnny. I'm just making up names. Yeah. I love Johnny because every time I see him, he makes me feel so much better. And he started to get like a little like quivery, you know? And I was like, where's Johnny? And all these kids are in the back like, this is Johnny. This is Johnny. And I was like, that's like, how'd that make you feel? He's like, that makes me feel so good. Like, it was just this very honest thing. All of a sudden, the fact that I'm celebrating them being open and vulnerable, everyone wants to share.
Right. Because they're like, I want to feel like that too. Kind of
yes.
thing. Yeah.
And you know that they all are waiting to just like, you know that feeling, right? Another kid goes, I love Mrs. So-and-so because whenever I'm in her class, I feel so special. And the teacher's crying.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
it's gone.
But it's like all of this love is just waiting to pour out of us. But what we've done is we've put this cap on it where it's like, no, there's no time for that. We gotta get you an A in this class.
Yeah.
You know, there's no time for that. We got to do this. And I think of our love. It's like a ball of yarn in our chest. And the more we get it out, the more threads we start to see of like the inner workings of our heart, right? And the more it comes out, the more our world outside of us reflects the world inside of us. And so the idea of going like, if I keep pouring out love, what's going to come to me? Love. But if I keep like holding it in, I'm going to attract other people who are holding it in.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, I went up to this kid afterwards, the kid who put up his hand. And I was like, hey, you want to just tell me like what was going through your mind? Like, you know, and he's like, honestly, I knew that I was going to get bullied for it. Like I knew kids were going to laugh, but I thought it was way too important not to share.
Wow.
Damn.
This kid was
prolific from a
10 years old. And I was like,
the articulation.
And I get emotional. Like I get so emotional because I'm like, the reason why I'm doing this work is because when I was that age, I had so much love around me, my family, my friends, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there was no love in here. And so to watch a kid express that, I'm literally going, geez, I wish little Vince did that. And that's where like, because that's how we find completion within ourselves, I believe, is loving all the parts of us, like the little chubby Vince who had a bowl cut and the girls didn't like him, it's like there's we all had the bowl cut. That's right.
Us,
That's right. But I believe that's how we find completion within ourselves and loving all those parts of us. And so, going back again, don't know the question, but the idea of creating space so that we can get these feelings and these truths out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, my next question was going to be, is there anything you can leave for educators to just kind of take with them after you speak? But I think you just...
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, you cleaned up with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Questions.
Yeah.
Questions. Just give the kids questions. Yeah. Because the more, I don't know about you guys, but the more answers I was given, the more it suppressed my own truth. And
because then you think that's like the right way.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And what is right, you know? And this amazing teacher that I met in Hawaii, I was facilitating at this retreat, and this guy Yosef, what's it called? Something fighting monkey. So this guy, he's like so wise, and he only asks questions, and he said, when you give someone the answer, you rob them of the journey.
Wow.
Damn.
Right. And I was like, this guy,
chills.
Yeah.
this guy just like,
wow.
I sit there and I'm like, this guy is,
way.
And that's why, because for me, I get it. Because and I still don't get me wrong. There are a lot of times where I'm like, do not see the answer. Like in my head, I'm like, do not see it. It's right there.
Yeah.
But I still have to work on getting back to like, it's not mine. It's theirs.
Yeah.
But the idea of like questions are the answer. If you really think about it.
Yeah.
You know, if we give people space with questions, like ask them a question, not to like give them your response to it, but just to sit with whatever comes out. That's how we start to get the truth to come out. Yeah.
Damn, this is so much to like absorb right now.
Just the rest of this day is just going to be like reflection.
So deep. Yeah, I was just going to
be working and be like, wow.
Clear the schedule.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my questions was going to be like, what's like your favorite moment been of you, either talking to a group or talking with somebody? Like, do you have something in mind? I feel like that was one of them with the kid and Johnny.
Yeah, it's always with kids. Always with kids. There was another one. It's actually one of my favorites. There were two things that happened in this one session. So it was the second session with the Hockey Academy in Stony Creek, and these kids are I think 7 to like 14 or something like that. So it's a big range. And people always go like, oh, is it going to be tough for the 7-year-olds? And the older kids learn more from the young kids.
For sure.
And that's what I love about it. But in this one session, so it was after I do a session called Identity. So who are you? And it's like, who are you underneath all of your titles and labels and accomplishments? And at the end of it, all these kids had their answer. We talked about it. And then I said, your homework is to go home and ask your parents who they are.
I think you asked the same thing of the one that I filmed you.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, go home and ask your parents who they are. And I didn't say anything else beyond that. So this 7-year-old goes, I asked my dad who he was, and he said, I'm your dad. And I said, no, Dad, that's just your title. Who are you? He said that to his dad.
Wow.
And so apparently the dad reached out to the hockey camp. He's like, what's going on? What are they going through?
What's going on?
You know?
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, like, kids get it.
Mm-hmm.
They get it. And again, it's not going, Dad, you're not this, you're this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they're giving the space to the dad that they
Yeah.
believed was valuable for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same session at the end, I have this on video. I really want to share it. I asked everyone, like, what did you learn? And this kid, 7 years old, he's like, I learned that first, before loving others, I need to love myself first. And I was like, not those exact words, but it's on video. I'm gonna get it out. But it was like, before loving others, I need to love myself first. And I literally was just like, I looked at the guy that was with me, and I was like, because that's all it is it's just a perspective shift.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change your entire structure of your life, but if I help shift your perspective, you've shifted your life.
Yeah.
And that kid, he's like, simple, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have moments like that, specifically with children, it just gives me so much, like, it just like fills me right up. And because again, we're all little children, just a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger, yeah.
Like
true,
that's
yeah.
all it
A
is.
little bigger, a little
Yeah.
more filtered.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so to experience that, there's no greater feeling. And what I'm noticing in schools right now is the budgets are getting cut. There's less opportunities for people to come in and speak and facilitate. So what I'm trying to create with my business is kind of like a loop where it's like I can go help the people who can pay for it, so I can go help the people who can't.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's where change happens in the world, is with our future generations, right?
For sure.
So that's working with kids. I would say, like, there's so many moments, but those really stand out to me because it's like when you hear these things, you're like, that's not, like, I didn't teach you that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you came up with that and you said it in your own, you know. So that's just like,
For sure.
that would be it.
I think it's cool too, because while doing that module, you shared like what your purpose was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool because, for example, someone like me who followed that module, and then I say it to myself, I inspire passionate people and myself in hopes of creating a happy and prosperous future. And then it's like I look back at things that have made me excited in life, and I'm like, it's exactly those things that have like led to that. So it's cool watching you talk about this after, like, you said what you think your purpose is, and it's like, it's cool because I can see it in your face and your body language. You're just like, yeah, like, I love when like kids say it on their own, because like that's what your purpose is. And then I noticed that as well after, I said that line to myself. I was like, fuck, like every moment in my life has been like that I like really remember as like an accomplishment has been like me doing that.
Yes.
So it's insane. And like you said, you didn't tell me what that was.
Yeah.
You said just look at things this way, ask yourself this kind of thing, right? So yeah,
100%.
it's crazy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's, I get fired up about this because it's like it just reiterates the fact that all the answers exist inside of you, and they always have.
Yeah.
And it's going to look different throughout our lives, but that answer that we're all seeking out here is already in here. We just need to define it.
Yeah.
Not find it, define it.
Define it. Yeah.
Because
I like that
finding
word
is like
choice.
through our eyes.
Yeah.
Defining is like, oh, it's already here. I just need to chisel it out.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's funny you use that word choice. There's, I don't know if it's a real quote or not, but this quote I saw of some sculptor. I forget who the name was, of course. Yeah, chirp me. But it was like, I don't create David. I just take away everything that's not David.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
like, he's looking at like a marble slab, and it's like, instead of creating David, I just take away everything that's not David. And I was like, that's exactly what you were saying.
That's
Yeah.
100% it.
So
Wow.
yeah,
I like
just
that.
love that quote so much,
Wow.
because then it's like you shift your mindset instead of going, oh, I have to become this, to I'm already that. What do I have to take away that's not me?
Yes.
Kind of thing, right? So it's
Wow.
like, yeah. So that hit me pretty hard.
You talk about reflection. I'm going to be sitting with that on the way home. How do I get rid of this?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't know. And I like that shift of mindset because it's a little more positive than being like, oh, fuck, I'm not this right now. I have to become this. It's like, I'm already there. I just need to take away things that aren't who I am truly, right? So
I love that.
yeah, I liked that a lot too.
I'm going to sit with that today. Oh, man.
Unreal. Yay.
Welcome to the most prolific episode of Instillment.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah.
Wow. I've been quiet this whole time because I'm like,
We should put a warning at the beginning of this one. Hey, just be like,
Get your water wings on.
Yeah.
honestly, though.
But yeah, even just like, make sure you're in like a mindset to like take this one in. Yeah.
Yeah, for
'Cause,
sure.
yeah, this has been awesome, man. Fuck, I don't even know what else to ask. I just want to hear you talk more. Okay, yeah. What is some things that you want to talk about in case like, because I know we chatted a little bit before, but
Yeah, I think I covered everything in terms of what I want to get out, and I think what I want to share with people is that I run an online program, the 33 Legacy Challenge. It's 33 days of 33 minutes on your own schedule to answer those questions and get a deeper understanding of yourself and master that relationship with yourself. So the first 16 days are identity. So who are you? And it's like we were talking about the container. It's like understanding what that container is, chiseling away all that is not, which is, I love that so much. And then the next 17 days is all about self-love. So once you understand all the parts of you and not just the good parts, like, oh, I love that I'm always, it's like your shadow, your, all the stuff that's been keeping you from being your best self. All those, understanding all those parts of you, the next phase of it is loving all those parts of you. And it's amazing because I've created, it's like an online community. So you're in it with about 20 or 30 people. And at the same time, everyone's going through, like we were talking about earlier, their own path, but we're all getting to the same place. So we're able to inspire each other along the way.
that's awesome.
And that starts at the beginning of every month. And if someone's interested, it's on my Instagram, which is @TheLegacyCoaching. But I would highly encourage it because it's really cool to just sit with that reflection on your own time. I am also there for extra guidance and that kind of thing. But that's where I'm noticing that people want their schedules accommodated to. And that's the best way to do it is you do the 33 minutes, which is 2% of your day on your own time, and then come back to the group. And there's coaching, there's live webinars, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, if somebody's interested, if this sparks something within them, I would encourage them to enroll in the program because it's important that we all go through this work and not just for ourselves, but for people in our lives, our family, our friends.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So,
100%. Is this like a new thing? Like, is this just starting or have you been doing it already?
The first one started January 1st. So we're,
how's it coming so far?
Great.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I'm noticing I made a challenge online for men to enroll and they answered the call.
Yeah.
Like I've got, it's 50-50. All my programs used to be like 80-20, 80% women, 20% men. And now there's a lot more men who are coming in and willing to do the work and not just like,
I'll do it just to say I did it kind of thing.
And that's, to me, I love that because if I see other men, like that inspires me because the norm, you guys know, the norm for a man right now is not to do the work. It's not to tap into your emotions, to heal yourself, women are very, very, it's not progressive. They're ahead of us in terms of healing. I believe this is what I believe. There's a lot more like women's groups and women's, circles and talking about things that are happening in their lives and whatever. And with men, it's coming, but it hasn't quite evolved to the same capacity.
Would you say that's because of like social groups and everything, or like the outside kind of? Yeah,
totally. And I when I eavesdrop at like a restaurant or something, you hear the typical conversation with men and with women. And with men, I find like, and I was a part of this, like, talking about something outside of yourself for 3 hours. So it's like talking about LeBron James or Kobe Bryant for 3 hours, rather than going, this is what I'm struggling with in my life and this is how I'm trying to overcome it. That's a completely different conversation.
100%.
And I'm not judging the people who are in that because, like I said, I've been there. I get it. I'm no better than they are. And I believe it's a great opportunity for us to start shifting what we're talking about. There's a great quote. It's like, small minds talk about people, bigger minds talk about ideas, and like evolved minds talk about
Yeah, the future or something like that. Yeah.
Chirp me too.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
But the idea of like the answer when we believe the answer is outside of us, our conversations will reflect that. We'll talk about everything except for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But if we believe the answer is inside of us, it's like, I own the fact that I really made the wrong decision here.
Yeah.
You know, my boss didn't do this to me. I made a choice that led this to happening, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so it's the idea of working inside out within a conversation, because I believe those conversations are a manifestation of what's going on in here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's another deep conversation or a whole other podcast, but
yeah.
The idea of, I just believe that women, or people who identify themselves as women, are further ahead in their healing. Mm-hmm. And for men, it's just, I think we can do a much better job of connecting to ourselves.
Well, because it's easier to not face those things, right?
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Of course.
Like,
it's the comfort.
I think a lot of boys grow up to be like, no, you're strong. Like, fuck that. Like, you're not
Yeah,
gonna,
just
like,
power
don't
through
cry.
it.
Like,
Power
power
through
through
it,
it kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like, don't
Mental
express
toughness.
yourself. Literally.
Yeah.
And like, that's not a knock on our dads, but that's just the upbringing they had, and that's why I think you're doing a lot to change that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
As someone
As
who's
do
doing
I.
my teaching too.
Yeah,
So,
I really appreciate that.
For sure.
Yeah. For me, what I really appreciate is you guys creating the space for me to express all this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm glad that I have an opportunity to express all this, but it means a lot because I know you guys are open to it, because I could sense it in what you're asking and what you're saying, and that's why I just want you to know that I appreciate being on here.
Oh man, thank you so much for being on
really,
here.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you.
I like, man, thank you so much. Honestly, really appreciate your
really
time.
appreciate it.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of Instillment HQ. Stay tuned, guys. Check out the Legacy Coaching.
Please
Stud.
do that.
Yeah, unreal.
Is this when we start the game?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you want to hop
fit
on
a
this
game in or what?
That'd be sick.